Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this week's TWL webinar. My name is Krista, and I will be your host for this afternoon. Now, I have one announcement, and that is the Geneva conference that is coming up and IGM meeting in Geneva, Switzerland. That is going to be October 27th through the 30th, and we would love to see you there. If you want to sign up or want to know any more information on that, you can go to iccc.net. With that, I'd like to introduce our speaker today. Paul L. Cooney is president of Marketplace Leadership International, an organization helping men and women around the world to grow in the revelation of the economic principles of the Bible. Paul's background as an entrepreneur, business owner, and investor has provided a platform from which to speak to leaders and professionals. Paul is an internationally recognized speaker on God's principles of economics and leadership. He has spoken at conferences and churches throughout Africa, Europe, South America, Central America, the Caribbean, and the US. His messages emphasize the practical nature of the kingdom in day-to-day life. I would now like to introduce the Vice Chairman of the Christian Chamber, Paul Cooney.
Good afternoon, everybody. It is a real privilege to be here. We feel like this is probably one of the key things that we can do to assist you, members and non-members, in learning how to function in kingdom businesses. And it's a real privilege for us to be here. Just to put a plug in for that international meeting in Switzerland, I was just a couple days ago in Amsterdam, Netherlands, with our international president, chairman, Jan Struisen, and we live in, I was at an economic summit that was taking place, and some of the world's top economists were there. And we are in very interesting times. I'm sure all of you would agree with that. We're in very interesting times, very interesting days, and I would strongly recommend you, if there's any way possible, that you attend that meeting. I think it's going to be a very special meeting. Well, my topic today is keeping going in business, or keeping your business going. My background is, I've run companies for other people. I had for about 23 years my own construction business, where I built industrial complexes, churches, did land development work, commercial buildings. I've done all kinds of things, and ultimately discovered that it was a gift that God had given me. Who ever heard of a gift to run a construction business? But some of you who may be listening or will listen, God uniquely equips each one of us to do specific things. And we find this in, I believe it's Exodus 33, and God is speaking to Moses about two men who were going to build the tabernacle for him in the wilderness. And as a general contractor, I was studying the book of Exodus, and I was reading it from my knowledge as a builder, and saw literally the genius of God as he was describing this. Now, if you think of Moses, he had no construction experience, and so God was giving him pictures about the way he wanted the tabernacle built. And then he says in Exodus 33 some very interesting things. He says, "Now I have appointed a man named Bezalel, and I have filled him with the Spirit of God and wisdom and knowledge and understanding of all kinds of craftsmanship." Now, the religious world will tell you that this guy Bezalel was this little worker in gold who would sit in a corner, and he knew how to carve gold. But if you look up the Hebrew words, and I challenge you to do that, look up the Hebrew words for wisdom and knowledge, and you are going to find that this was a man with a very unique skill, wisdom in administration. So he was, not only did he understand everything about how to construct the tabernacle, but he had wisdom to administrate the thousands and thousands of workers that it had to take to build this masterful tabernacle that was going to house the presence, the tangible presence of God, the Ark of the Covenant, in their journey in the wilderness. And knowledge, God equipped the man with special knowledge. So here's the thing. I gave you a little bit of my background. I am a very practical man, and when I talked with the Lord as a young believer in Jesus, I said, Lord, I don't know anything about theology, but this life in Christ has to be very practical for me. And I didn't realize that business was my calling. So the question that some of the questions we're going to talk about today is, how do you keep the business going? What are some of the pitfalls? How do you keep the business going? How do you obtain the blessing of God? What are the key points of understanding about business that will help us succeed and flourish in the days ahead? And I want to tell you, no matter what the economy does, no matter what it does, no matter what nation you're in, no matter what the economy does, you're going to be okay. Things are shaking. The economic systems of the world are shaking. There's cracks in them. We truly live in Revelation chapter 18 days. It's a privilege for us to be alive and people of influence in this particular day. So how do you keep business going? How do you keep your business going? How do you keep your business life in order? How do you operate a kingdom business? So just a couple of interesting statistics, because some of you may be thinking that that you would like to start your own business, a small business. So we're going to talk about a couple of the different stages of business, and then we're going to talk about some common pitfalls. But before we do, I want to tell you this, and this is an astounding statistic. 86% of all businesses in the United States employ 50 or less people. That means that if you have a small business, if your business employs 50 or less people, you're in the majority. So how do you cause this to flourish? Here's another interesting statistic. 50% of all business startups survive 5 years or more. 1/3 of that 50% survive 10 years or more. So how can we help put you in a place where your business will be sustainable over the long period? So as I was praying through this today, I think there's basically, and I may be speaking to people who want to start a business, I think there's you could probably add more, but I think there's 3 basic stages in business, in the life of your business. The first we would call the enthusiastic beginning. We're talking about today, how do you keep the business going? What are the what are some of the characteristics of businesses that are sustainable over the long period of time? So the first is the enthusiastic beginning. It's a honeymoon period. Okay, you have a wonderful vision. You know that God spoke to you. The best way to start a business, by the way, is by the leading of the Lord. It's to follow the direction of the Lord as he leads people, because he is putting people in small business situations all over the United States, and in reality all over the world. Small businesses, small business startups are exploding everywhere in the world. So if you want to start a small business, entrepreneurial endeavors are really it's at the heart of what God is doing in our day. So what is the honeymoon period, or what is this enthusiastic beginning? You know that God spoke, or you believe that the Lord is leading you. So my recommendation to you is that you wait. Don't be too quick. Wait and confirm that it is the voice of God. The second thing is you may sense that, have a sense in your heart that God is speaking to you, that he is speaking to you to start something. Now, I want to tell you about a prophetic friend of mine, a woman, who was an interior decorator for a large firm. She was an employee, and she hears the voice of God. This is an example of how businesses can start and how they can grow. So here she is. She has never been an entrepreneur in her whole life, and she begins to sense that God is leading her to start a rather unique business. And she kept saying to the Lord, Lord, I don't know anything about starting a business. I've never started a business. I'm not entrepreneurial. I'm very comfortable in my job. Well, this dialogue went on for 3 years. 3 years. God knows that whether you're willing to listen to his voice. He knows if you're willing. And you don't have to prove anything. But she waited for 3 years. Eventually, she was sure that God had spoken to her. She started her business, and that was 12 years ago. And she has become the leading voice in her field in a very unique business in the United States. She is one of the top voices in the United States in this particular field that God was leading her in. She's very gifted in it. And you will find, if you're going to start a business, or if you have a business, God will equip you with giftings. So let's say you start the business. In the very beginning, you need to set a standard of excellence. God deserves this kind of commitment from you. Don't try to blend in. Don't try to buy the business. If it's God's business, God is able to sustain it and make it work. If you go into a new business venture and you think that I'm going to cut my prices so low that I'm barely making a profit so that I can get a place in the marketplace, so I can get my position in the marketplace. In my humble opinion, that is the wrong way to go about things. God is the one who will teach you how to profit. He will give you the ideas, the wisdom that you need to make things sustainable. But he is not desperate for business. The Bible tells us that he opens his hand and satisfies the desire of every living thing. So the second stage of a business would be when challenges come. And challenges will always come. Your life as an entrepreneur in your business, it does not go like this. It goes like this. And it will have an upward trend. That's how business operates. Don't have any illusions about that. Challenges will come, and they may come in a whole different way of their package. They may be market conditions. They may be competitors. There may be organizational challenges that you have in your business. I will tell you, I feel like I'm a pretty organized guy. And I have always had an appreciation for organization, even when I was in the early stages of my business. I was so organized as a general contractor that I used to help other contractors raise their level of organization. And the concept was, I didn't try to keep everything God put in my hands to myself, but I was willing to open my hands and to share it with people who viewed me as their competitor. Now, my personal opinion is that there are no competitors in your business. If God owns the business, and if he doesn't own your business, you need to make sure that you transfer ownership as soon as we're done here today. If he owns business, he's not nervous about what you may think as is competition. He's able to position you in a way, and we'll talk a little bit about that toward the end. There may be organizational issues. Well, I happen to be in one of those little valleys that come along, and I was driving through a gated community, and I was seeing one of the things that was my bread and butter business was building big, expensive houses. And I was in a sort of a dip in the business, and I was driving through this gated community, and I noticed that a lot of my competitors, some of whom were not very ethical in the way they were dealing with subcontractors and suppliers and their clients. And I remember praying. Now, keep in mind, I was organized. I remember praying and saying, God, look at this. I believe what David said. David said, why do the wicked prosper? Okay, Lord, why are they prospering and I, your servant, are not? And immediately God spoke these words to me. He said, son, all this business that you see, I could give it to you right now. He said, I could give you all this business, but you're not organized enough. Now that offended me, I must confess. He said, you're not organized enough. If I gave it to you, you would embarrass me and embarrass yourself. And honestly, I was shocked. But I came to the conclusion that he's God and I'm me, and therefore there must be something that I wasn't seeing. So I went back to my office, back to my staff. I called a staff meeting. We sat down. And I said, I want us to look at everything. We're going to get more organized than we've ever been before. I want you to look at everything. So we all looked at everything, and we got sure enough, you know the end of that story. God was smarter than I am. And we got more organized. And once we got organized, then God began to open his hand and send people to me. And he will do the same to you. This is not a Paul Cuny story. This is a God story. And you may be in a desperate position. God is able to bring the business to you. But he does not want you to embarrass yourself, and he does not want you to embarrass him. The other thing that is important for you to realize, if there is a stop, if business seems to be slow for you, I have 3 words that I want to share with you. Details, details, details. The details are of paramount importance. Do not think that you can start a business and not attend to the details. The details are of paramount importance to you. No matter what business you're in, they are of paramount importance. Okay, usually in these challenging times, God will get your attention. Make sure that you listen to what he has to say. Put yourself in a position to hear the voice of God. It is normal for you to hear the voice of God. If you are not hearing the voice of God, that is abnormal Christianity. He wants you to succeed. He wants you to prosper as God defines prosperity, not as a prosperity preacher defines prosperity, as God himself defines it. And if you want to know what that means, then you start looking that up in your Bible. I'll challenge you to it. The other thing that happens is sometimes when the challenges come, you get discouraged and you end the business, or happen that it's the attack of the enemy in some cases. Sometimes it's our own foolishness. Business is difficult sometimes. If you think that this is a cakewalk, you're wrong. You're absolutely wrong. But God's desire is that you prosper. I guarantee you, it is his desire that you flourish. That if you're a young business person, it is his desire that you flourish in your giftings, no matter, just like Bezalel did in Exodus 33. When challenges come, don't keep doing the same thing. If you need to get your business lean, and if you need to change your focus, listen to the voice of God. Ask God what he wants from you, and then just simply do it. Now, there are common pitfalls that will shorten the length or the life of your business. A whole lot of stress to your life. Again, I ran my business. I had my own business for 23 years, 23 years, in a very difficult business. I had a banker friend tell me one time that most bankers, he was a bank president, he said most bankers figure that people in my business, if they're really good, they make it 10 years. By the grace of God, I managed to successfully do a very complicated business for 23 years. So I know what I'm telling you works. Okay, here are some common pitfalls that I have observed, and some of which I have made myself. Common pitfalls. Number one, you're a Christian. You may think that you're a Christian. God has called you to business, and therefore you are guaranteed success. This is a common pitfall. There are certain guarantees in life, but just because you are a Christian does not mean that you are guaranteed success. What it means is that you have access to the wisdom of heaven, the knowledge of God. And if you listen to him, then he will put you in a position to succeed. Another common pitfall is too much debt. We're talking about things that will kill your business. That you will not be able to keep your business going if you make these common mistakes. Too much debt. I was in Europe with Jan, and talking to some of the leading economists in the world, literally the leading economists in the world, and they all felt that there's a shaking coming. Okay, if you're carrying a lot of, do everything you can to get out of it. You don't need new equipment. If you can deal with used equipment, do that. But in the days ahead, it's going to be very important for you to be lean and mean. Another common pitfall is profit matters more than relationships. Listen, don't make this mistake. God can create profit in your business out of nothing. He told us in Isaiah 48, he will teach us how to profit. Profit. Relationships are absolutely critical. Profit is secondary. God, the entire first 5 books of the Bible speak about relationships and commercial relationships, relationships between business people, relationships between husbands and wives and families. God is relational, and those who are going to succeed days must value relationships. Take care of your clients. Before God, take care of your clients. Another common pitfall is failure to understand that God has expertise in your business. He is not a 1-day-a-week God. He is a 7-day-a-week God, and he is an expert in every business that is represented on the face of the earth. And the good news for you is he's willing to tell you what he knows. So recognize that he knows the future, and he is willing to speak to you about it. The other thing is failure to understand that there is a supernatural nature. The core of kingdom business or kingdom life is the supernatural nature of God. It is available to you. It's available to me. It's available to everyone. Not everyone taps into supernatural nature. Now, what does this mean? This means that you can walk into a business situation, and by employing the warfare, the spiritual warfare that is available, the victorious efforts you can control the atmosphere of the situation. If it's a tense atmosphere, you can pray against the spirit of anger. You can take authority over those things. There are many aspects to it. And the last thing that I wanted to tell you is, if you go to Deuteronomy chapter 11, it's a very important verse. And Moses was about 3 months from dying when he gave the people of Israel the book of Deuteronomy. He was on the other side of the river Jordan, and remember, he was not allowed to cross in. So Deuteronomy chapter 11, and this is what it says. And this is what I believe God is saying to you and me today. This is what he says. He says, now the land into which you are going is not like the land of Egypt, because remember, they had left Egypt. It's not like the land of Egypt, where you used to water your garden with a treadmill. Okay? In order to water the crops, and remember, they were an agrarian culture. In order to water the crops in Egypt, they devised a series of treadmills in order to pump the water, because Egypt is a very flat land, in order to pump the water from the Nile over the banks of the Nile and into their fields. And so they would get on the treadmill, and their feet would go up and down like this, and they would pump. Well, when they got old and they couldn't pump, or when they were sick, or when they were hurt, and they were not able to pump on that treadmill, then the crops died. Okay? The treadmill is the picture of human effort. We talk about it. We're on that treadmill. It's a picture of human effort. And Moses was saying this: the land into which God is going to send you is not like the land of Egypt. He said, it is a land that will drink the former rain and the latter rain. It's because Egypt was flat. It is a land of hills and valleys. It's a land of hills and valleys. And God will irrigate your crops for you. You don't have to get on that treadmill. And that is something that God is saying to us today. There is, when you are doing what God wants you to do, and you're doing it with excellence and your relationships are in order, when all of these things are in place, you will find there is an ease about life. There is a grace about business. There is an ease about life. And now it's not always that way, but there are times that you go through that sometimes are challenging times, and God just doesn't talk. You know, let me ask you this question. Did your teachers, when you were in college or when you were in high school, did your teachers talk during a test? And the answer is no, they did not. And so God may be testing you when he is silent and you're saying, God, would you speak to me? Would you tell me something? He may be testing you. Anyway, this is where we're going to end for today. And I just pray that this has been a blessing for you. And we look forward to continuing this and helping you in any ways we can. God bless you. Thank you, Krista.
Awesome. Thank you, Paul, for your wisdom. And thank you, everyone, for watching today. We are so grateful for your presence, those of you who watched today and who are watching later. We bless you and have a great weekend, everyone. Bye.